Hi, this is Deborah Sable Thornbrew, and I'm going to demonstrate several different advanced features in a table for Unit 7 in our CSIT 125 Word for Business class. This is using Windows 7 with Microsoft Office Suite version 2013. The first thing I'm going to show you is something called merge or merging cells. This top row of this table has a title in it, my table, but I don't want it to just be in the left-hand cell. I want it to be in the middle, and I don't want these lines in between. I want one whole cell going across the top. So what I'm going to do is select the entire row, the top row, and then make sure that I go up here to the Table Tools, either Design or Layout tab. If I click the Design tab, that usually is where you go for color, shading, and styles and how you want the table to look. But I'm going to go to the Layout tab, and over here in the Merge group, I'm going to click Merge Cells. So what it did was it merged the three cells that were in that row into one whole big cell, and it automatically centered the title. So that's merging a cell. If I wanted to split one cell into two, I could click into the cell that I want. Let's say I'm here in this cell for $408.13. I click in there, and again on the Table Tools Layout tab, I go over here to Split Cells, and if I click that, it offers me choices of how many splits I want, how many number of columns, how many number of rows. I'm just going to leave it at the default of 2 columns and 1 row and click OK. And then I'll click away to get rid of the shading, and you can see that it just did a simple split of this one single cell, not on any of the other cells in that row or in that column, into the two. If I want to get rid of this split, I can just do an undo by hitting Control-Z on my keyboard. Another thing that you can do is just change the cell margins within one single cell or a number of cells or the whole table. And that means the spacing in between cells. If you look at the table as it is now, there is no spacing between cells. It's just the border lines alone, and they're right up against one another. There's no extra margin or space around any given cell. So I'm going to leave my flashing insertion point right here, and I'm going to go to cell margins. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do cell margins. One way is to just go up here to the Table Tools area in the Layout tab and click Cell Margins. And what happens is when you do that, the whole Table Options window comes up. And I don't want table options. In other words, well, I could. Let me show you the table options. This way it'll change all the cells in the entire table. So if I do this, right now I've got a little tiny bit of margin, 0.08 from the left and the right, but I'm going to increase that to 1 and 1 and go to the top and bottom and do the same thing. Go to 1 and 1 for all around. Okay, and then watch what happens when I do just that. Do you see what happened? The spacing within the cell, within each cell, increased. Okay, I'm going to Control-Z to undo what I just did, and I'm going to do this again, only this time in the Cell Margins Table Options box. Instead of doing default cell margins up here, I'm going to go here to work with cell spacing. The cell margins, there's a difference between cell margins and cell spacing. The margins are inside the cell, spacing is outside the cell. Watch what happens when I put a check mark here to allow spacing between cells and increase that a little bit, say to 5.05. So if I click OK now, you see what happened? The cells remain the same. In other words, the dollar amounts don't have extra space around them, but instead each cell has space around the outside of it. So that's the cell spacing. Okay. So remember the difference between cell margins and cell spacing. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to nest a table within a table. No, before that I'm going to show you how to do the sum. That's right, I'm going to show you how to do the sum formula. Let's say that I want to add up these columns of numbers or dollar amounts in each row or each column. So I have an empty row down here. So I'm going to click into this row below these three numbers, and I'm going to go again on the Table Tools contextual tab. So I'm going to click Layout, and then over here on the far right hand side in the data group, click Formula. Now when you do that, the formula box comes up, and you can change the formula if you know how to do that, but the default typically is to add up the numbers, and so it will always start with the sum. So it's going to say equals sum and in parentheses above, and that means that what's going to show here in this cell is going to equal the sum of all of the numbers above it. So now I'm going to just click OK, and there it is. Now you can tell that there's a formula in this cell because if I highlight it, there's a darker shade on the numbers. That indicates there's a formula there. If I were to highlight any of the others above it, it doesn't have that extra dark shading. It just has a regular light shading. So that means that these are just typed in numbers. But if I do like that and click to shade or highlight, the darker shade indicates a formula. If you want to see what that formula is and you don't remember what it is, all you have to do is press down your Alt key on your keyboard and then tap F9, your F9 key. And that will show you behind the scenes what the summary is, or what the formula is. If you want to toggle that off, just press Alt F9 again and it will put it back. So I want to do the same thing to this cell and this cell, put the sum above in each one. So I'm going to click in here, click Formula. Yes, I want the above sum formula. Click OK. And again over here, the same thing. So I've got the sums. Now I want to have another blank row underneath the totals. So now that my flashing point is here at the end of the table, the lower right cell, I just press the Tab key and again a blank row, new row opens up. So if I want to nest a table within a table, the easiest way to do that is to just click inside the cell where you want the nested table to go and just insert a new table there by going to the Insert menu, Insert tab, go to Table, click Table, and roll your mouse, hover over how many rows and columns you want. And as I do that, if you look down here in this cell while I'm doing that, it'll give you a preview of what that nested cell will look like. So if I just click where I want the number of columns and rows to go, there it is. That's a nested table.